Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Well, Piston fans, today we're going to discuss how and why the Pistons broke the NBA record with 27 consecutive losses and how it came about and how it was a perfect storm for all this to happen. We're going to discuss the flawed roster, coaching malpractice, failed ownership, and choking in the clutch. We're also going to get in a little bit on about trades. So please, if you can't listen to the entire podcast right away, listen to part of it and then try to listen to the rest of it later, because I think you will enjoy some of the information. But last night was very disappointing and gut-wrenching, but Cade Parker Cunningham put on a show and showed, it's not clear yet, but every day he's showing more and more that he can be the foundation of our franchise, and that he can be this great player. And I still don't think that he has to always score 41 points for him to be great. I think that he's still, he's a great passer. He rebounded really well last night. He had 9 rebounds. But it was like an out-of-body experience. What he showed was he wanted that game so bad, and his leadership, and he just, in the second half to score 37 points and make 13 out of 16 shots and 3 for 3 on threes and 8 for 10 from the free throw line in the second half. It was just a testament to something that I've seen in my lifetime with great players, that they can raise their game even beyond what they are to make a great performance. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with Troy Weaver. And, he did come here and he started with nothing. Actually started almost with less than nothing, because he had a bunch of negative assets like Blake Griffin that we ended up having to pay not to play $30 million. And he had nobody wanted Andre Drummond in his big contract, so he had to get rid of that. He had to clear the books to make, so we had cap space. And he did that. And a lot of people, I hear people say they downplay that. And I understand you're frustrated because we haven't really used it to make an impact on the team yet. But he did start from nothing. All these other teams, again, I've mentioned it before. Orlando, they got the Vucevic trade. And they got Wendell Carter, who's way better than Vucevic. And they also got the pick that they got Franz Wagner. They got another first-round pick. So they also traded Aaron Gordon to Denver and got some picks and some players. So they've really had, other teams had a great way to start their rebuild. And Oklahoma City got Shea and a million draft picks, and they did everything they could. They were very smart, but they had lots to work with, though. And really, we started out in the negative. So ironically, Vucevic has been hurt, and Zach LaVine's been hurt, and the Bulls are doing better. So Vucevic, they got from Orlando. He averaged 19 points a game, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists. And they just re-signed him for like $20 million a year or something. But they gave up so much for him. And then last night, our boy Andre Drummond, 24 points. He was 11 for 13. He had 25 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 blocks. And the Bulls won again, and they won like 9 of their last 13 games. And that shows you how NBA teams can just turn things around, and how interesting it is how one player, sometimes there's addition by subtraction. But anyway, so if you look at all of Troy's moves in a vacuum, each one separately, they aren't that bad. But when you look at them in totality and what they've caused to happen, this is his 4th year, and we all know that. So he's done a lot of good moves. His draft picks aren't terrible, but what he's done with the roster construction has failed completely, and it doesn't work in today's NBA, and we're going to get in and discuss about that. But his first draft, he was all excited, I think, and he wanted to make moves, so he got 3 first-round picks, and he took Killian. Other people were high on Killian. I mean, before the draft, I was set on wanting to get Therese Halliburton more than anything. But a lot of teams passed on him. So Troy wasn't the only team that he passed. He was picked like 12th, I think. And so, but we got Killian. And again, the scouting report on Killian was he can't go right. He's not a good shooter. And he's not a great athlete. And he struggles to guard really quick point guards. But anyway, he took Killian. So other people would have taken him high too. So that was a hurtful pick, but it wasn't, completely stupid. And then he took this was really hurt us. And Stu has played great last night. And again, we're going to get into Stu more as we go. But he had somebody that he had close ties with that was really close to Stewart and really valued Stewart and thought the world of him. And so, we know that Monty loves, or not Monty, I always screw up. Troy loves centers, and he wanted him, and he loved his passion. And again, you can't. It is real valuable to have guys that play hard and play tough and that are hard workers, but they also have to have talent. So I think sometimes Troy is guilty of that. So that he loves Stu. Again, he gave him that big extension, but he hasn't proven. What the worst part of that deal is now it's handcuffed us to make any trades. So we can't trade away our first draft pick, for a long time, because we have that trade that we made for that pick now is in the hands of the Knicks, and it doesn't convey until way down the road. So we can't trade a first round pick until maybe 2019. We could trade that pick, I think. But so he made that pick, and then Sadiq. I was happy when we got Sadiq in the 20s, and he was, I thought, a tough defender, but he was a good shooter, and we needed shooting. And so I was happy with that. But there was a reason he slipped, and he wasn't as good of a defender as people thought. He was tough for college, but he just didn't have the athleticism to be a great defender in the NBA. And it still remains to be seen. He's having a good year for Atlanta, and we traded him for Wiseman, which a lot of people second guess. But again, that goes back to there's one podcaster that says that we try to expect Sadiq to do more than what he was capable of. I disagree with that. Sadiq did what he wanted to do. Sadiq wanted to force the drive. He wanted to be a more well-rounded player. He didn't want to just catch and shoot open threes, because he was passing them up at the end when he was with the Pistons. He was forcing the drive. He never passed the ball. And I'm sure that because of discussions Troy had with his agent, that he wanted a lot of money. And so I think Atlanta right now, they haven't re-signed him. He's going to be a restricted free agent. So we'll see what happens there. But to get Wiseman, and a lot of people are really disappointed in Wiseman, and we could have got four second-round picks. That's what they ended up getting. Golden State ended up getting 4 second-round picks because of the Wiseman trade. And we got Wiseman, and Atlanta got Sadiq. So the next draft was, people say, a no-brainer, and I wanted Cade, and there was times to be honest, even at times this year where I was second guessing, and we never know. A lot of players go up and down. You look at Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes had this magical rookie year. Part way is because Toronto was winning more than they expected, and Scotty was a big part of that. Well, then the second year, he was considered a major disappointment. And then now this year, he's considered to be way better than he's ever been. So there's ups and downs with players, and there's lots of examples of it. But Cade, every day is looking more and more like he is the guy. And he was, unbelievable last night. And we got Livers in that draft. Livers was a great second-round pick for middle of the second round, and he hasn't panned out. He's had injury after injury. He's shot way worse than what he's really capable of. I think he's a good shooter, but he's shot bad for us. And he's a smart defender, but he's not athletic enough to guard people in the NBA. So the next draft, we got Jaden Ivey. Well, most people had him projected as the 4th pick in the draft. And Sacramento got Keegan Murray instead. And so everybody, I was at the draft party at Little Caesars, and when Sacramento's pick was announced, everybody cheered. I mean, they just went crazy because that meant we were going to get Ivy instead of Keegan Murray. And so that's what people wanted. And some people even had him high as 3rd. Well, I wanted Shaedon Sharpe or Benedict Mathurin, but I think Ivy has so much potential. And I think this is one of the failures of this season has been, Monty not playing him enough and not giving him confidence in himself. And so I still think, he played last night. He shot poorly, but he was so energized, and he wants to win. He has so much passion and heart. And so then the Duren pick. So we're going to talk about more. We got lucky. I think Troy got lucky, but he made the best of his luck. I mean, we tried to trade Jeremy Grant, and I was hoping we'd get the number 7 pick for Jeremy Grant. Portland had the 7th pick that they took Shaden Sharp with. I was hoping we'd get that pick, so I was hoping we would get 2 of those players like Ivy. There was Ivy, Shaden Sharp, Benedict Mathurin, and Keegan Murray. I was hoping that we got 2 of those 4 guys with that draft, and instead Troy traded it for Milwaukee's 25th pick, which Portland owned. So we traded Jeremy Grant for that, which we knew that Milwaukee's picks weren't going to be good as long as they have Giannis. And so we got that pick. So somehow he was able to trade on draft day, and it involved Charlotte and it involved the Knicks, but the Knicks end up getting it, that protected pick of the Pistons. So it's protected for 1 through 18 this year. And it has lots of protections until 2027. So, but we can't make moves until we get rid of that. So we're going to talk more about that later too. But we picked Duren. We got the 13th pick from them. They traded us the 13th pick, and we got Duren. And we took on their salaries that they wanted to get rid of, so that they could take. We took on Burks and Lawrence Noel, so that they could sign Jalen Brunson. So we just got lucky there. And then Troy was evidently really high on Duren, and he got him with the 13th pick, and he is, if he's healthy and those ankles can hold up, he is going to be a fabulous player for the first 13th pick, and I think has the potential to be one of the best centers in the NBA down the road. And I think we've only seen the beginning of his versatility. So that was a great pick for him. And then the Asar pick this past year, I wanted Cam Whitmore or Taylor Hendricks because we just needed shooting. We needed shooting, and everybody knew that Asar, he shot poorly, and I contended that he had all the best benefits of the best training, the best facilities. He was at Overtime Elite. 24 hours a day, they were working on basketball. He's a hard worker, but he still couldn't shoot. He's 20. And he's been there for 2 years. And so that set me an alarm. That's why, I knew we needed shooting. We were desperate for shooting. And we were desperate for wing defenders too, which Asar is the elite of the elite in that aspect. My thing is, he's ours now. We have him. We need to make the best of him. I think he has just terrific potential also. But play him, Monty. He played 9 minutes last night. And, we lost still. So we just need to play him, and he played fantastic earlier in the year. His shooting does hurt the team, and it does create. But, the one game, I mentioned this, I think, before, that they said, we got to use him different ways. We got to use him different ways so that people can't just sag off him. So one game, Monty said that, they used him in the pick and roll. First 3 possessions, we score. And then he hasn't done that since then. I don't know if that was like the Indiana Pacer game a while back, where he did that, but it's never happened again. And it never happened even during that game. But anyway, we need him. But here's the thing where it just points out all these picks in and of themselves are good picks, but none of these guys are great shooters. And, I think Cade has showed last night he could be, and Ivy has shown long stretches of promise of shooting. But again, I think a lot of his is psychological, but it's transferred to his form. So they're not even guarding him right now, and that has to change. But we drafted Sasser. And so again, here's the perfect example. Monty loves Sasser, everything about him. And Sasser's 3-and-D, but he is, again, he's one of the shortest players. There are very few players in the NBA as small as Marcus Sasser. And on top of it, we knew we needed wings. We don't have a wing. We picked up Knox off the garbage heap, and now he's like our first sub in as the wing. And so that's where he made a huge mistake. That thinking he has had 4 years to find a wing that can shoot, and he's found none. We haven't got one in 4 years. No wings that can shoot, and so that's on Monty. I mean, that's on Troy. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm sorry, but. So, I think he was excited when he took that first draft picks, first year of the draft when he took Sadiq and Killian and Stu. But I think that he's done a decent job. And again, you can say that most people would have taken Cade. Most people would have taken Ivy. A lot of people might have taken Asar. And so that's, those aren't terrible, except he hasn't signed or traded for any wings. So if he drafted those guys and signed and traded for 3-and-D wings, then we would be okay. And we just need, he needed, in those 4 years, if he would have got 2 wings that could shoot, we would be in good shape, I think. So yeah, Sasser, I don't know what's going to happen with him. He's struggled this year. I think that he's going to probably be more and more out of the rotation. He has shown signs of being brilliant, and I believe that he's a tough defender for his size, and he can shoot. But his size even affects him on offense. So he needs space. He's pretty good at creating space, but he struggles sometimes when he gets in the paint, and he has to shoot over big guys. But sometimes he's got a nice floater game. But the bottom line is still there were lots of guys, and maybe they wouldn't have panned out that were available when we traded to the 25th pick. There were a lot of guys, and I just wish we would have traded down. The Rockets stole Cam Whitmore at the 20th pick, so I wish we could have done that. But there still were guys that still are going to end up being, I think, decent wings in the NBA that were taken after him, or we didn't even have to trade. We gave up 2 extra second-round picks to get Sasser at 25. So the Bogey trade, that was brilliant. We gave up really nothing that we wanted. I mean, we gave up Kelly, and but we really gave up nothing. It was stunning that we got so much for we got him for so little. And he is a terrific player, but he is flawed. But the worst thing I can say about that trade, and then even the contract that Troy signed him to was brilliant. $20 million. He extended him for 2 years, $20 million for the first year, and only $2 million guaranteed for the second year. So if we wanted to cut him, if we were getting stuck with him, then we would only have to pay him $2 million. And so I would think that'd be really attractive for another team to want to trade for that contract, because if things work out this year, but the thing that's going to be a failure, and Keys to Wisdom, one of my listeners that I really value, he's pointed out, that we can't not get nothing for him. I mean, we should have traded him last year at the trade deadline and seen what we could get. And we knew Cade has played much better since he's been back. Cade's game has stepped up. His turnovers have gone down. His percentages have gone up overall. He's had a few bad games mixed in, but Bogey's helped with that. But Bogey, again, they just targeted him last night on defense, and I'm afraid that's going to lower his trade value. I'm afraid all the other teams in the NBA, they're scouting right now. All the NBA teams have scouts at games for guys that they potentially could trade for, and if they saw Bogey get targeted last night on defense, I think that's going to diminish his value. So I just would love to be able to get even a late first-round pick for him, or a good young player, or both. So anyway, that was a great move by Troy, and the contract was a great move by Troy. The Bagley-Wiseman thing, we gave up nothing for them. We weren't going to keep Sadiq. Sure, we could have kept the 4 second-round picks. Probably would have been more valuable. Wiseman's shown some flashes. Everybody hates Wiseman, except for me. I don't hate him. I'm not sure that he's going to be a valuable player. I still think that he could be a decent backup center in the league, but he didn't get a chance to do it much last night. He didn't look that good last night. There's been a bunch of games recently that he's looked really good. So the Monty Morris trade, that was brilliant. We got him for 1 second-round pick, and we took on Joe Harris's contract, and we received 2 second-round picks for taking his contract on. And so that was beneficial, and one of those second-round picks went to get Monty Morris. He's 28. He shoots 38% on threes. He never turns the ball over. If he had played this year, would he have made a difference? Yes, he would have. And again, maybe we would have won who knows how many more games, but I think he would have made a major difference. So when you look at the totality of all of his moves in the roster that he had going into this year, it wasn't completely terrible if everybody stayed healthy. Well, the reality is, if you watch in the NBA, every night, every team has players that are in their rotation that are injured. It's every night, every team. So you can't count on that. And again, when you were the worst team in the league last year, it really hurts when you have players that are out, that are valuable, important players. Again, our team last night, we had Duran and Cade, Ivy, Bogey, and Stu. And we've never had that lineup. I don't know if those guys have ever got to play together. And they looked really good last night as a unit. And I think, again, I think if you stick Asar in there, I think that's a really good team. So we'll see what happens going forward. We're going to talk about rotations a little bit later. The other teams that lost all these games, like we're losing and had this historically bad losing streak, well, all those teams are teams that were like in the first year of a rebuild, or they were trying to lose on purpose and tanking. We're not. And this is Troy's fourth year. So the moves he's made aren't terrible, most of them, but he has made some major mistakes about not getting wings that can shoot, and he's had 4 years. So I don't think I'm really confident that the owner's not selling. A lot of you, they can't sell the team, that he's not going to do that. And we're not tanking. A lot of people think we're tanking, but we're not. And I don't think they're firing Monty. They owe him too much money. But I think the one person that could get fired at the end of the year would be Troy. But I still don't even think that's going to happen. So I know everybody wants all these things, but I just don't think that they're going to happen. So, like I said, December, everybody wants a trade right now. Everybody's demanding a trade. Everybody says we got to do something. And everybody, you have a right to feel that way. And it would be great to make some magical move that's going to make us win a bunch of games. But I'm not sure that move's out there. And the other thing is, there's urgency. Even Tom Gores said there's urgency, when he talked to the beat writers. But the other teams aren't. It takes two teams to make a trade. You'll always hear me say that. It takes two teams to make a trade. And they have to have something that you want, and you have to have something that they want. Nobody's going to trade just because you're urgent to make a move. And so, we just got to kind of wait and be patient. And I know that's hard to be patient. So here's a problem, a big problem with our team is shooting, 3-point shooting. So we are 29th out of 30 teams in 3-point percentage, even on open threes. So again, you can say stuff about Monty. Don't think that his system's the greatest system, but we are shooting 34% on open threes. That's when we're open by 6 feet or more. We're only shooting 34%. The league average for open threes is 39%. So that's that's really tough. So Boston, for example, Boston makes like over 16 threes a game. We're last in the league. Boston's first, and we make 9.9 threes a game. And we will not win in this league. Teams are not going to win if they have, unless you have the most phenomenal defense, like maybe Orlando and the Timberwolves, you're not going to win when you get outscored from the 3-point line that much. So that's on Troy for not doing that. So now we got to play Boston on Thursday, and we're the worst, make the fewest threes, and they make the most threes. And so what do you think is going to happen? So it's not looking good there. But talking about trades a little bit, there's been some trades that, Bill Simmons, he came up with the trade. His favorite fake trade was trading Bogey to the Knicks. We give up Bogey, and the Spurs get Killian and Evan Fournier, who are both from France, and Wemby's from France. So put the two French guys with the Spurs. And then the Pistons would get Doug McDermott, who's 31, not in our time thing, but he shoots 44% on threes. And Seti Osman, he's 6'7", and he's 28 and shoots 36% on threes. But plus, we would get Dallas's first pick this coming year, which is right at the moment like 19th. And the Knicks protected pick, which is really our pick that we traded in the trade to Houston to get Stu. So that trade, we can't trade any first round picks until maybe the 2029 until this pick conveys. But if we make a trade with the Knicks and get that pick back, then we have we can have the flexibility to make trades, and we can trade first round picks. So that pick is protected 1 through 18 this year. Next year, it's 1 through 13, which still seems very obvious that we're not going to finish better than 13 next year. Then in 2026, it goes to up to 11. 1 through 11, it's protected. And then in 2027, it's protected 1 through 9. So then after that, We just have to give up a second-round pick. So, but we sure hope that doesn't happen. We sure hope we finish better than 9th by 2027, and I'm real confident we will. But another trade I've heard in there that Bagley for DiVincenzo to the Knicks, and he shoots 35%, 45% on threes. So I would take him. I like him. You know, he would give us a shooter, or Bagley for Fournier and that first round pick back. So I would do anything to get that first round pick back from the Knicks. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the trade market. Anything can happen, and I would even take Bogey for Fournier and that first round pick back. So that's another chance that could happen. But like I said, keys to wisdom, I think he's right on that we got to trade him while he has value. You know, his value's going down, not up. And, you know, he's one injury away. You know, he was injured this year. Guys that are his age are injured way more often. So, and again, it'll give us less shooting, but maybe we can get a shooter. So, last night, there's no easy games in the NBA. So that's part of the problem, that there's these teams that are doing historically bad, and there's a chance that there's going to be more than ever teams at the bottom that are doing historically bad. So in the last 25 years, there's been like 14 teams that have finished with a net rating of 10 or more. So a net rating is how much you score versus how much you give up. So if you score 100 every game and give up 110 every game, your rating is -10. So anyway, the Spurs have a worse net rating than us, and they have the greatest coach in the world in Popovich, and they have the greatest rookie that come along since LeBron and Wemby, and they have some good young players, and they're still losing worse than we are. Even they're not losing more games than ours, but they're close. But their net rating is one more point higher than what ours is. So our net rating is 11.2. The Hornets are 10.6. And there's never been a year in the NBA history, I don't think, where there's been 3 teams that have been -10 or more. And the Wizards are -9, and I think they're going to be tanking even more. I think they're going to try to trade off Kuzma and Jordan Poole if they can. And the Blazers are -6. The Blazers look better at times, and if they had everybody healthy all the time, they would. I think they're better. I don't know, but we'll see what happens with them. So, yeah, I think that there's some teams that are really going to try to tank. I don't think we're ever going to have to worry about trying to tank. And by the way, Boston, we're -11 and Boston's +10 overall in all their games. They win by 10, give up 10 points less than what they score. So now we're going to talk about Monty's coaching malpractice. And it says lineups, it says handling of the young players, and it's all been a nightmare so far, and he's insisted on playing like to start out when we have Stu not making threes, and we have Duran and Killian and those guys out there that can't shoot, and Nassar. That's how we started out, and that was coaching suicide. You can't win. We did win 2 games, but those people weren't going to win because too many non-shooters, non-scorers, not just non-shooters, non-scorers. Those guys can't. Again, Stu has shot really great lately, but he's not a scorer. So anyway, Monty said that I was brought in here to change this. It's probably the most on me than anybody. You're right, Monty. So you did have a flawed roster, but you're not flawed enough. There's enough talent that it never should have gotten to 27 consecutive losses. And that's on Monty. And so he said the players are playing their hearts out, which they did last night. I can tell you that. I have to get them in a position that they don't feel tight or heavy. And obviously, he has not done that. If anything, he's put them in a worse positions to feel that way, especially Jaden Ivey. So we do have to have empathy for Monty, and I brought this up. And again, I think there's a lot of confusion, and we forced him. We felt everybody saying how he didn't want the job. He turned the job down, and he did. And then we just kept on throwing more and more money at him, and finally he took it. But again, there's a little bit of more of a story to that, and Monty does deserve a little bit of our empathy because he didn't want to coach at first, and he had job offers. He had the Bucks, I'm sure, I think, offered him, and maybe the Raptors. I don't know if the Sixers were interested in him or not, but I know that those other teams were interested in him, and he wasn't ready to coach. But and by the time that he was ready to commit to coaching, those teams already had filled their spots, and so Detroit was the only one left that had a position. But the situation was he didn't make the move to be a coach because his wife had a double mastectomy, and so he had to wait. That was in mid to late July, and he had to wait for that. When that was all cleared, then he was able to take a job. But those other jobs weren't available, so that's why he didn't take them. But anyway, I just want to see him. He showed signs of doing better lineups last night. He started, the lineup. I'm thrilled that they got to start together. I hope they get to keep on starting together, unless I would maybe switch out Asar for Stu. But I would still have Stu in my top 7. So my thing for Monty is you play 7 guys 25 to 40 minutes. And then you play a couple guys 15 minutes or whatever, whatever, fill in the blank. So we have, if Cade, Ivy, Bogey, and Stu Asar and Duran start, and then coming off the bench with Killian, who I'm not a huge fan, but I think he might be a better option at the moment to be the backup point guard, and then and Stu or Asar at the other spot to give us the 25 minutes to 40 minutes. So, I think that team can win. And then, you still rotate 9 guys, not 10 guys. You don't have 5 guys out at the same time. So, I talk about staggering all the time, and here's an example of staggering. So, 76ers, they have the top. I said my Celtics are a little over plus 10. The 76ers, and they've played a bunch of weaker teams lately, so they're plus 10.9 or something, but they played the Pistons and the Wizards and a bunch of the lower teams lately, so that's risen there. So their schedules can get tougher. But the bottom line is, so they have Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and Embiid plays the entire first quarter every game and the entire third quarter every game, and then he takes a break, and then he plays the end of the second, and then he plays the end of the fourth. And Maxey plays the entire second quarter and the entire fourth quarter, but they both play together a lot too. So, but he makes sure that one of them is always on the court, and that's what I mean by staggering. And so that's what I think that we really need to do going forward. So, anyway, we're going to talk about the failed ownership, and Tom Gores is a billionaire. He was founder of Platinum Equity, and it's a private equity company in Beverly Hills, California. And then he's worth $6 billion. Gores is worth $6 million. He became the owner in 2011, and he became the sole owner in 2015. But the Pistons have won like 36% of the games since he's been owner, and that's got to be like the worst owner in all sports. I mean, there might be another team, but it's got to be right up there with among the worst organizations winning wise in all of sports. 36%, and there's ups and downs, and there's rebuilds, and there's things that happen. But when you're consistently that bad, it's partway on you. You have something to contribute to that. So, I know there's a lot been said. He said, "How can you tell me to sell the team when I do so much for charity?" Well, we love that you do the stuff for charity, Tom, and it's a great thing. And it's easier for billionaires, in that it's still they're still giving. They're still giving their money, but it's easier to give away $1 billion when you still have billions left. And so, anyway, but it doesn't excuse him from how the team is performing and how it's underperformed for all these years, for more than 10 years. And so he's part to blame. And so the main thing he's done, he's tried to get these coaches that maybe weren't the best for our team, and he wants to make the big splash, and he's given them lots of money. And so it's good that he's willing to give them money. And he has said that, everybody knows that when it comes time, if we want free agents, if we want to go over the salary cap, he's all in to do that. So that's a good thing. But he has been, a disappointment, and he has contributed to the failure and the perfect storm. Like I'm saying, it's not all everybody. It's not on just one person Troy is responsible, Monty's responsible, Gores is responsible, and to some degree the players are responsible, but they have not been put in position. They have not been given, the right teammates to play around them. It affects how you play. Here's another big thing, though. The choking in the clutch, and we've done that. We've choked away games. I mean, the worst one was November 1st on my birthday. I went to the Portland Trailblazer game, and we had this huge lead, and we just couldn't score at the end of games. But here's how bad it is. Clutch, the NBA defines clutch time as the last 5 minutes of a game when it's within 5 points. So we've had 26 of those games, not including last night, and we have shot 20% in the last 5 minutes of games that are within 5 points. 20%. And we have shot 15.8% on threes at the end of games. And, we didn't shoot great last night. Cade made some buckets late in the game. But in the last 25 years, the worst clutch shooting for a team is 31.4%. We're 14, 11% worse than the worst team in history. And, we maybe can get that percentage up a little bit by the end of the year, but that's a big factor. We're not going to be a playoff team, but we should have, easily 5 more wins. And again, nobody wants to hear, I feel bad. Monty, his plan, to think that when you get an older player like Bogey, they get injured more. But when you have a player like Duran, and he's missed as much time as he has, again, we just haven't had his lineup all together. And I think that they're going to get better and better, but we still are thin. We still don't have enough good players on our roster. And that's where it comes to the draft. We're going to get a high pick this year. We'll probably get a decent pick again next year. Next year's not this following spring, but the following spring after that is going to be a good draft. So I don't know where we're going to be at by then, but we do have cap space, and that does matter. No matter what anybody wants to say, and I know people say we've had it for 3 years and we haven't used it, but we need to use it, and it's valuable in trades. Having that cap space lets you have so much more flexibility to make trades than if you don't have that cap space. So we got to get, again, I've said this before, you've heard it, you're going to keep on hearing it. We need to get wings. We need to get 6'9", 6'8", 6'7", 6'10" guys that can defend and shoot the three, and we need 2 of them. We need 2 of them, and one can be really expensive and one can be kind of average expense. But we need to get quality people. We need to throw all of our assets into getting that, and that's what Troy has not done, and that's on him. So anyway, thank you for listening. I know I was just on last night. I'll be on again after the Boston game, but I appreciate every one of you. Please subscribe, click on the like button, and be the reason that somebody feels cared for and heard, and go Pistons.